you know, that ties into people also blowing the whistle like Stanley Kubrick. You know, he making movies, trying to reveal some of this stuff, and then, you know, he suddenly mysteriously dies. You know, so there's a lot of. But anyone who's really studied this subject for a long time knows that it's not modern. It doesn't just date from the period of you know, the discovery of America or whatever. You know, you can take it back to England. Very strange happenings with serial killers there, like the one that jumps to mind, of course, is Peter Sutcliffe. Some of the revelations he made in court. He was known as the Yorkshire Ripper. You know, I've made a detailed study of so many of these kinds of personalities, both in America and in England, and the same refrain. It's almost unbelievable how common their refrain is. Not just about their own psychological upbringing with their parents and so on, but during their spree of crimes. You know, they made me do it. Voices made me do it. Hey Doc, I'm possessed.
Do it. Do it. You liar. One of these mine! You gotta have him sign. Just go. Get in the next taxi. Just go. Go, 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 go! Don't do it. You liar. That's not what we're here for. That's not what we're here for. He signed your record and he was nice. Put the date on and everything. He was kind. But I want to kill him. He's mine. I want him. Help me, devil. Leah. Give me the power. Oh, boy. Let's do it. I want to. No! God, no. No, 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 no. Nobody! You're nothing! He wasn't phony. Just get in a taxi. You coward, you phony! Get in a taxi and go home. You got your autograph. Go home, frame it, put it on the wall. Put it on the wall! Don't listen to them. Don't listen to them. There's no place like home. Go home, go home. Mr. Lennon?
They've had this whole run-in with doctors. The Hungerford killing, for instance, the name of the perpetrator escapes me right now, but it's the famous Hungerford case, is blatant mind control. And the guy having serious problems, committing his crime maybe within half an hour of having a phone call from his specialist. A bizarre phone call was recorded in which the guy lifts the phone, it's perfectly normal, lifts the phone, puts it down, goes upstairs, gets on his hunting attire, his military fatigues, arms himself to the teeth with all of this, you know, hunting attire, and then goes down, you know, into Hungerford and basically slaughters a lot of people. And then, okay, the normal, ubiquitous, he kills himself out of remorse bit at the end. No, he killed himself at the end after the head detective arrives and through a loudspeaker or through some sort of a bullhorn coaxes him out.
Johnny, come out, give yourself up, you're surrounded.
And then you hear a shot. So how do we know that that particular speech from that detective or that chief of police is not loaded with what they call trigger terms? You know, we know it exists in backward masking. We know that codes have been used in the military. Well, you know, language is a communication device. How do we not know that in that speech, coded, embedded within that particular speech, when they're saying, "Hey, Johnny, come out, give yourself up, you're surrounded," how do we not know that within that is not some trigger word, and then bang, pop, you hear, oh, and then the media will never know. It's another mystery. Nobody will ever come to the, you know, and then the media unleash their story for you. They have their little story and the weeping parents, and we had no idea that our son was such a lunatic. No, the whole world now knows that he's a mass murdering psychopath, but you didn't know. So, you know, we got whole questions there that need to be looked at and investigated. Who are the parents of these people? You know, what is all this symbolism about? Are these just, you know, disgruntled people? There's a lot of disgruntled people in the world. There's a lot of frustrated, jaded teens, but a lot of them don't, you know, get into Trans Ams and drive them through, you know, McDonald's windows. A lot of them don't go and buy automatic weapons and murder innocent people. So people need to wake up and realize this thing is so much deeper. And then the history of it. The history of it goes back through the Assassins, which was the Islamic, during the Crusades. The Crusaders, the Western Crusaders were absolutely stunned, you see, about how it could be that these Saracens and these Islamic warriors were so unbelievably ruthless and just so dedicated almost had no fear of death. Of course, then they subsequently find out, after they've been in the Middle East a while, that this is a hashish-based cult. These guys are on the bong before they even get on their horses, and other drugs, other kinds of mind-altering drugs, disseminated to them by their occult leaders, people of Islamic versions of Freemasonry. And it's a very elaborate story. In fact, you can pick up this story in, I think it was the book Conspiranoia, but I'm sure that Jim Keith and others have covered this. It's a pretty elaborate story of exactly how the indoctrination process of the Islamic warriors in those days. Basically, it boils down to the fact that they condition you to believe you are an angel, you are serving Allah, and those guys are all the devils, you see, and you killing them is doing great work for Allah and the Prophet. Well, if you're mind controlled into that, you're going to be raging into war and killing and having no problem being very brave and all of that, because you're conditioned to believe that there's no such thing as death, and even after you die, you're going to be surrounded by wonderful, damsels and angelic forms and all of this. So the Templars, later especially the Crusaders, after they had married in with some of these Oriental families and had got picked up a lot of this occult knowledge, started to work it out that, wait a minute, if we could have an army, if we could have agents, if we could have captains and people in our military establishment that had this kind of dedication, we could conquer the world. You see, because remember, England, Britain, is a very small place. Holland, some of the old centers of government are not particularly big. They don't have large populations. They don't have large armies. They can't compete against the great continents of the world. Alexander the Great found that out. So, but wait a minute, if you have one man who's got the power of 10 men because he's been indoctrinated, not only is this chump going to do what you tell him to do, he's also going to be a perfect fighting machine. But it means the removal, does it not, of his normal circuitry of morality. Well, nothing could be easier. Morality, as the philosophers and psychologists have told you, is about paper thin anyway. You only have to say a few choice words to somebody and they've lost their head. So nothing could be simpler. And as these chaps found out, these experimenters, that now we understand is the Tavistock Institute of Human Relations, now we understand is the, these Frankfurt School and all of these people of the 20th century. But this thing goes way back through the assassins, through the whole drug cult of the cult of Dionysus, where the mind-altering, again, harkens back to something I've said repeatedly in my work, is that all those things, all those modalities, all those wonderful spiritual occult practices that have the ability to take your soul up, that have the ability to enlighten you, to inspire you, to sharpen your reason, your critical ability, all those things, every one of them has the equal power in the wrong hands to do the opposite, to take you down. It's the difference between sorcery and magic. Sorcery and magic. Never end talking about this. It's a very, very important concept. And all that you see out there in the world today, especially in the media, and most of even the tinkering around with occult subjects, is a form of sorcery. And I'm not the first to have said that. And that's why there's so much insanity down the line, so much misinterpretation. Because toxic individuals in control of, occult information is wrong. It's going to go askew very easily. Because we have a vast misunderstanding of what all this means. But without even getting into all of that, the Bible, is the Bible sorcery or is the Bible magic? Is it a bit of both? So it goes back through the assassins, it goes back through these, and not only them, there's been many cults in the Orient. The Thuggee is another one to be studying, where we get the word thug. Not only were these people funded and created by British money, by the East India Company, the Thuggees were never a problem before the British secret apparatus got there through the East India Company, and wanting to destroy and disempower the native Indians who resisted the infiltration of British elements, they formed a criminal organization, the Thuggee. They funded these, bong smoking Shiva worshippers or whatever they were, Kali worshippers, who were no threat to anyone, nothing more than a simple faction easily taken care of in the region, suddenly have thousands and thousands of pounds. They're infiltrated by specialists from Britain, from the East India Company, to start plaguing the region, you see, and causing upheaval and destruction, by which the British government hid behind. The triads, the Tong, the list is endless. So this understanding of allegiance and realizing what a fragile, pathetic creature human beings are anyway, so totally traumatized that it's very easy to just, paint over or even completely erase the human sensibility, the human sensibilities of morality and so on. And it goes right back into the question of religion as well. Religion is very tied up into this, because you're not appealing to man's reason when you're dealing with mind control. That's the first thing. You're dealing to man's irrational self, which is why people like myself are so adamant about developing the reason and developing man's higher, levels of consciousness, because then there's only chance of being immune to